The sound you've just heard there, apart from the Telecaster and the player, is going through the Behringer V-amp 2. Now this is nearly 20 years old as a guitar amp simulator, and I hope you'll agree that it sounds pretty good, even with YouTube compression applied. Now, this thing lives in my van. It is a backup. I hardly sell things, and actually something like this can really get you out of a hole, and it's only a few ounces in weight as well. So if you're going to a recording session, maybe the amps aren't really any good in the studio, or you just want a particular sound, you just dial it in and go straight into the recorder. Fantastic. What you've just heard there is the Brit Class A simulation, which is actually the Vox AC30. Now on the Behringer V-amp 2, this is the second incarnation, you can actually have the second guitar amp per setting. You're actually now hearing the non-top boost. So it's almost like the normal channel of your Vox AC30. Let's just return it to the Vox AC30 setting. Now we've got the usual gain, bass, middle and treble controls and a volume control, and then your master is the only control here which is a standard pot with ends on it. So let's just amp up the gain. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Now, whatever you think of Behringer, whatever you think of guitar amp processors or guitar amps, you have to admit that actually the notion of a guitar and an amplifier and a speaker and a room and a player and the fingers and the plectrum means that you are going to get all those differences. So if you change one thing, like this guitar amp processor for another, actually you're just getting a slightly different sound. It's not bad or good. Now the reverb on this is very nice. Let's just take that down to 0 because we've got the other effects here. So for example, a chorus. Let's try it with another amp, the classic clean, the JC120 for example. I mean, it's not going to be the JC120 chorus, but it's a sound that you can make, and it's only literally a couple of dials that you turn to make that work. The phaser's really nice on this. There's a second parameter per effect. So at the moment it's sort of the amount of phasing. If I turn that all the way down, you get a different sort of, the actual number of steps in your phaser is different. Whoa! The auto wah is really nice on this. I've used this as a studio effect, just sending from the mixing desk and bringing it back in. The compressor's really useful, especially if you've got a clean sound and you just want it to cut through the mix a bit. Rotary, it's a nice sort of Hammond organ sort of speaker sort of thing. Very nice. Ping pong delay, so it's like a stereo delay. And then some combinations. Now, of course, it's not like modern pedal boards where you can get like 8 effects at once. You can have 2 at once, like a phaser and the delay, for example. You can change the cabinet that goes with your guitar amp. The bass, middle and treble controls tend to be a bit more wide-ranging on the guitar amps than perhaps the actual guitar amps themselves, especially with the valve amps. So if I go on to, I don't know, modern Class A, that's like a matchless sort of thing. It's like just a modern sort of guitar amp. especially with that mid-range. Now that is not a bad thing, because actually when you're using a guitar amp simulator, it can be that mid-range that is kind of lacking. With the guitar amp itself, you've got the box behind you making the noise, so actually it's pretty good. Now, well, there's not really much more to say, really. Well, rectified high gain, I think that's like a Soldano sort of thing. Great. The fuzz box, what a great addition. And then a couple of its own sort of the Behringer's own sort of versions. But you just turn the controls, see what sounds good, press record, and away you go. And it's great for live work as well. It weighs virtually nothing. It'll fit in a guitar case. Perfect.